A look back at the week on Barnstable this morning on this episode of Barnstable Today. I'm Sarah Colvin. It's Friday, January 27th, 2012. The Adopt-a School program, which brings police into our schools, is back. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mary Chakowski, spoke about the program on Monday.
I understand that our schools are extremely safe. That the decision to, and this was an Adopt-a School program that had been in place previously in the Barnstable Public Schools, and I think it was cut because of some funding issues. But this is a great way for our police department and our school department to collaborate, and for students, especially in our elementary schools, to build a relationship with a police officer, that to know that a police officer is somebody that they can go to in case a question or in case they're in trouble, and I think, or they just want to learn more about issues around, what they're going to be educating them about. As part of being in schools, they're going to have an opportunity to talk with students and staff about internet safety, about cyberbullying, about stranger danger. It's amazing that as I go into the schools that we've got second and third graders, and I ask them how many students have phones. I'm amazed at the number of children that raise their hands around having a phone and having access to the internet in the real world. And so the goal here is for the police officers to spend roughly around maybe 2 hours a week, and there's going to be a police officer assigned to each school. And this was one of the initiatives that Chief McDonald spoke to me about when I first came to Barnstable early on, and his intent was to follow up and implement it come January, and we met again in January, and we were set to go. And I think it's going to be it's going to have a very positive impact on our schools and our students. And already I've started to receive some feedback from teachers that this is a positive thing.
Recently, the Barnstable Police helped to arrest the member of a dangerous gang that was hiding out here in Hyannis. Chief of Police Paul McDonald talked about the arrest on Tuesday. Interesting to me.
This is an investigation that's been going on for 2 or 3 weeks. It was a combined investigation with the BPD Detectives Division and the ICE unit. We have a very close relationship with ICE. They spend a lot of time down here, and they use the BPD as their base of operations. We did gather information. ICE gathered information that a couple of individuals came down here from Somerville, originally from El Salvador up into California, over into Somerville, and then ended up down at Cape Cod. So the investigation was initiated. Once they were able to confirm who they were and that they were indeed part of MS-13, they went down to make the arrest. One individual was arrested on state warrants. The warrant was out of Somerville PD for ABDW. He's an individual that was deported one time before, came back into the country, and right now they're all being held at Bristol County House of Correction waiting for deportation.
Now, is this troubling at all? Have we seen gang activity? I've heard that this MS-13 gang is pretty dangerous gang. Is this concerning to you as a department?
Right. We went back down there on Thursday down in Bristol County, and we had a debriefing, and they sat down there, and they pretty much talked pretty openly with us. And again, it was just to gather intelligence information, not to try to charge you with any additional crimes. We received more information regarding the activity of MS-13, and another gang, which is equally violent, is the 18th Street gang. Both these gangs are out of the state of California. They're predominantly prison gangs. Most of them are made up of Latinos and El Salvadors and other individuals like that. But we are concerned, but most of them are individuals. They are involved in some criminal activity, but not gang-related. Most of them come down here to areas like Cape Cod because they're trying to escape where they're from. They're either wanted or they're suspects of some type of crime in California or up north of Boston. So they kind of get out of those hot spots and they come down to Cape to try to lay low, and then they come up on our radar. They are involved in some criminal activity, but individualized crime, not really to come under the umbrella of really being a gang.
Well, it's all gone now, but just last Saturday, the snow came down here in Barnstable, about 9 inches of it. DPW Director Mark Ells talked about the cleanup.
Well, no, we kind of come in waves, all the way from a few people observing, if we anticipate something, through, actually calling in the sanders, which in many cases are also plow trucks. So once they're on, they will typically stay unless there's going to be a break in between. And then we began staging the equipment around 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, anticipating that by 11 or so we would have 2 inches of snow, which is pretty much at that point is when we will allow them to go out and start plowing. 2 to 3 inches is what we're looking for. We knew the snow was going to come down heavy, and meaning 1 to 2 inches an hour, which it did right into the afternoon, early afternoon. So, it went about as we anticipated, and I think, it takes a little while. Once we call to mobilize, it probably takes everybody an hour, hour and a half to get to their staging point, and then once we're ready to go, everybody goes out, and it's all done systematically by routes. We have primary and secondary routes. So obviously the primaries are trying to keep the major roadways that we're responsible for around the town open. And then the secondaries we get to typically with smaller vehicles, and that's a whole nother wave of employee and contracted plowing that we do around the community.
Governor Deval Patrick delivered his State of the Commonwealth address on Monday evening. Senator Dan Wolf joined us Tuesday with some analysis.
Well, I think he's really looking at it at once from two perspectives. One is the educational perspective and what the role of our community colleges are in higher education, and then at the same time looking at it from the economic development workforce need. And it's a really interesting perspective to sort of run parallel paths. And looking at the workforce development, as he said, there are about 250,000 people right now that are unemployed in the Commonwealth, and about half of them, if they had the proper skills, could find immediate employment. So he sort of says, okay, that's on the one hand one issue. The other hand is we have 15 community colleges across the Commonwealth, and we have a lot of other workforce development resources across the Commonwealth. And he's sort of saying, it would be interesting to look at a statewide need for middle skills development to meet, to address the unemployment issue, while asking the community colleges to be partners in that. And at the same time, looking at the structure of our community college system to say, is it really fitting that forward-looking desire? And I think his feeling is, and this is going to be debated, I can tell you, in the legislature, is whether we would be better served by a more centralized administrative function in our community college network. I can tell you that there already is some pushback from community college folks, and I've heard some buzz in the legislature as well.
On Monday, the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority will officially kick off its brand new Upper Cape bus service. CCRTA Administrator Tom Kerr filled us in on the new routes.
There's been fixed route service actually from Provincetown all the way up to Mashpee and Falmouth for the last several years, but Bourne and Sandwich, two big towns with over 40,000 year-round residents and 80 square miles, have not had access to fixed routes. So one of the things I've been thinking about for the last 2 years is how do we get a service into those communities, and particularly during these tough economic times, because there is a local assessment that's applied to communities that have our service, but I didn't want to be foisting that on those towns at this time when pink slips and furloughs and everything else are going on at municipal government. So we took our time and we sought a couple of grants that could offset the local assessment, and we were successful in getting them. And so these two new services will start, they'll both start at the Bourne Park and Ride there in Sagamore, and one will go down through Sandwich and Mashpee, and the other will go through Bourne and Falmouth, and eventually they'll get to Mashpee Commons, and not, well, I shouldn't say eventually, because we are cognizant that people need to get to a place, in a timely fashion. So we'll get them there in about an hour.
Barnstable This Morning airs each and every weekday morning right here on Channel 18. We're live from 7:30 to 9 a.m. You can view past episodes at town.barnstable.ma.us. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.